Good morning. Finally! Some fog. I've been driving for 40 minutes to get to this location where the weather forecast said that there would be fog. It said that there would be fog in a huge area around it, and I was just like losing hope because there was like no fog on the way here, and just right here there's fog. Thank God. So it's a little bird reserve outside of Copenhagen, and they have this nice boardwalk here. I've only just started walking on it. So there's a lake out here with some reeds. All looks very beautiful. The first composition I'm working on is right here, a vertical and a horizontal. I do struggle a little bit with these reeds down here, and that the boardwalk is going this way out here, because I actually really like the composition with these trees that goes into the scene here, and I really do not like this birdhouse right here. But yeah, there's fog, there's atmosphere, it's beautiful. So when I make these compositions, it's really all about seeing if it works. The point is, of course, in this case here, to follow the boardwalk all the way through the scene as a leading line among these trees here. And as you can see, I'm using these trees right here to kind of lead the eye down to the boardwalk and through here. And it's really that simple with the composition. F16 ISO 100 gives me a shutter speed of 1.3 seconds. Does it work? It works. So right now I'm shooting this way here. You can see the camera here, and you can see I'm not on the boardwalk. I'm standing in the water. It's not very deep. I think this place is just a little bit flooded. Usually there's probably not water here. But yeah, bring wellies. It works almost each time. It gives you much more freedom to move around in wet areas. Right now, with this boardwalk here, photographing it, I'm honestly not too confident with this composition. I'm making a focus stack, so a shot here and a shot here, but I think it's not properly balanced. And you know, it feels a little bit too meh. So as per always, I do find myself in some relatively awkward positions. So my setup right now, you see the boardwalk here, and then I've had to go out here to set up the tripod, and you can see I'm standing right here on this stump there. But the problem is, as you can see here, a little bit further down the boardwalk, I have right there, you can see it, like a stump which has been sawed over. And even though I'm photographing the boardwalk, which is a human element, I prefer I prefer to avoid, for the most part, sort over trees. It does give that feeling that this here is an environment which has been taken care of by humans, and obviously it is. It's a bird reservoir, but I don't want to have that come through in my photography. So I try to avoid those kind of human elements, bird houses, sort over stumps, and those things. The boardwalk is fine. Somehow it's hard to explain why that's fine, but I like the shape of it. I like that it's there. It doesn't have to necessarily be like, a new and modern boardwalk. This one here has been here for some years at least, so it does give a little bit more of a vibe of something older. So yeah, that's kind of my thought process when it comes to man-made objects for the most part. But yeah, the composition super simple, in the sense that, as you can see here, I'm using the boardwalk to lead the eye into the scene and into this beautiful tree that kind of falls over, and then we have the tree right here that frames the scene we are walking into. So we have this little branch up here, which is right here, straight in front of me, and I'm just moving that one when I'm taking the photo. 2-second timer, f16, taking 2 shots and focus stacking it, so one for the front and one for further back. So right now I'm shooting back through this boardwalk here, and I've been playing a little bit around with the composition again, so you can see here. So I'm using the trees, as you can see on the screen, to frame the composition. Again, I have to focus stack as to get the entire photo in focus. And the one simple question I always ask myself, does this work? And I think it's something that all photographers ought to ask themselves. A lot of people, obviously, when you are a beginner, you go to YouTube, you learn the techniques, you want the validation just to make sure that you're doing things right. But when you have got a little bit of experience and you have some questions that pops up, ask yourself, does it work? If it does, great. If it doesn't, well, figure it out. Google it. My point is that I do get asked a lot of technical questions, such as, Mads, you're shooting a lot of at f16. Isn't it f11 which is better when it comes to diffraction? Try it out on your own camera. Cameras and lenses are different. For the most part, with all the lenses that I have worked with on my full frame systems, the Sony systems, also my old Canon systems, for the most part I could go all the way to f16 without getting too much diffraction. f18, that was where the threshold were for me. So if you're in doubt about your own camera gear, camera setup, go out and test it. Figure it out yourself, because it can actually be hard to find a satisfying answer on the internet. Your own eyes is best at judging. So I think it's an important thing to ask yourself when you go through your life, also outside of landscape photography. Does it work? Do I succeed in whatever it is I'm trying to accomplish? If not, figure it out. It's also like, you know, with camera settings. If I'm shooting at f16 or if I'm shooting at f11, if I'm focus stacking, for the most part, it doesn't really matter whatsoever. Shooting at aperture priority, nothing is moving. My shutter speed, completely irrelevant. I could shoot all the scenes I've shot this morning with 1/1000th of a shutter speed or like a 30-second long exposure, and it wouldn't make a difference whatsoever. So that's also one of the reasons why I don't really put so much emphasis on settings, because for the most part they are very, very negligible. Anyway, I'm just showing you this example right here, and I really like the boardwalk. The only problem is that I have this stump over here. I have this fallen over tree here in the background, and in all honesty, as much as I like the boardwalk, I think this here is an example of something that's too messy and that just doesn't work. It doesn't accomplish what I'm trying to do with the compositions and the feeling and what I want to take away from this morning here. So it's distracting and it doesn't give off the right vibe. And that's the thing. If you want to learn more about composition and landscape photography, be sure to get my 2 ebooks. Here I share all the compositional tools that I use in my landscape photography, and it's super easy to learn, minimal text, lots of photos to get the point off. You say that a picture tells more than 1,000 words. That's the philosophy I've used for those ebooks, and people seem to be very happy about them. Lots of 5-star reviews, so check them out down in the description. I can hear the birds from up here. I can't see anything. It's way too foggy, so yeah. It's probably nice during another time of year. It's not easy making B-roll. So I've come out into this area which is full of reeds. I cannot see a single bird in this bird reserve. I can hear them though. They are among the reeds somewhere. However, I'm photographing this boardwalk, as you can see here behind me, and I'm standing in a bit of an elevated position, and I'm photographing in this direction here. You can see the boardwalk is making this S-curve up to the trees. Now, due to my position, I can't use my tripod. However, I'm zoomed in to something like this here. As you can see, for once, I'm actually photographing with auto ISO, f11, and then I'm just trying to get the shot handheld. Something like this here. This here may be my favorite shot of the morning. I'm not entirely sure. I had hoped for more considering the really, really great conditions, but the trees around here are not really that interesting. So now that I have returned home and have edited the photos, I think it's only appropriate to get a bit of meta on my own photos and ask myself if they actually work. And I gotta admit that for the most part, they do not. It is just not the right time of year. Everything is dead and it's rather messy. The ice on the water doesn't really help either. I can definitely see this location working much better on a foggy summer or autumn morning where the fog, the green reeds and leaves of the trees would help to unmess and calm down the scenes. Because don't get me wrong, I do find that the compositions work. The geometry of the boardwalk scenes work really well, the trees in combination with the boardwalk is great, it's just the season that is wrong. I also kind of break one of my rules of thumb, which is to not include the sky in my forest scenes, as it has a tendency to add a lot of attention-craving contrast to the upper part of the photos. For all these reasons, I find that the last boardwalk photo among the reeds is the strongest boardwalk photo I managed to get this morning. It's simple and the geometry is highly aesthetic. On the way back to the car, once the fog had lifted a little, I got this photo of a beautiful, big, characteristic dead tree with some ducks in the background. In all its simplicity, this one definitely also works, but I gotta admit that if I want to get the most out of this location, a change of season is required. The next morning I went to another location which I've visited a few times on this channel already, as I was supposed to get some more fog. I did get some fog and some photos, and these photos work much better for me. These first two photos has of course all the great features of fog, and the right has some beautiful hoarfrost in the grass too. However, the subject of the photos, the old oaks, are also both aesthetic and interesting, which is a bit contrary to the photos from the previous morning. I also got this photo where I first found the composition of the beautiful old tree in the foreground on the left and another gnarly tree in the background on the right. I then waited for a deer to walk into the scene. After all, it is a deer park, so the chance of that happening is actually rather big. The deer doesn't have the most interesting pose, but the photo overall makes for an orderly and aesthetic winter atmosphere photo. The last photo I want to show from this morning is this one, a big dead characteristic tree which just looks so aesthetic on the darker background and foggy atmosphere. I do have a slight issue with the specular highlights in the background where you can see the sky between the trees, but I think a change of season can fix that. There are always so many lessons to pull out of a photography outing, but I do think it is so important to ask yourself and to be honest about it. Does this photo work relative to what I want from it? If it does not, then what does it take for it to work? These days I'm running a spring sale where you can save entire $100 on my huge Photoshop for landscape photographers post-processing course. The course is designed in a progressive way so that we start with the simple lectures first, introductions to the programs and how Photoshop works with layers and masking, and then advance to some of the harder techniques such as luminosity masking, focus stacking, and all-round heavy processing with many layers. If you're already familiar with Lightroom, it should be easy to get started with this course. I also have a 33% discount on my other tutorials, so there is all around many dollars to save. The coupon code is in the description of this video below, and if you're watching the video far into the future, be sure to check the description anyway, as there is most likely another coupon code to use. But right now it is spring sale, so be sure to get your $100 off, and good luck with the course. As always, I hope you learned a thing or two. If you enjoyed the video, I'd highly appreciate both a like and a comment.